and Songs podcast. We're your hosts, Dan and Andy. Andy, how are you?
Doing good. How about you?
Good. Today's November 11th, 2022. It's our season finale. We're on season 3, episode number 51. We're wrapping up 3 years, starting season 4 next week.
Yes, we've grown quite a bit.
So tonight is a songs episode, music only, album of the week, album review, anything music related. No sports on this episode, but the next sports episode will certainly have a lot to offer. So let's get into the music.
A little tribute to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions this week.
Hall of Fame inductions were this week. We picked artists that was inducted for this week's album of the week review. Here it is. The album of the week is Live from Earth by Pat Benatar.
Very good album.
Now let's bring it up here.
There it is. Yep.
So Pat Benatar here, let's get this out of the way. Here we go. Let's start it off. It's the first live album recorded by American rock singer Pat Benatar and was released in October of 1983. The album was recorded during Benatar's sold-out Get Nervous world tour in late 82 and early 83. It also contains 2 studio tracks, Love is a Battlefield and Lipstick Lies. This album shipped more than a million copies, and Love is a Battlefield was an international hit single, and garnered Benatar for her 4th consecutive Grammy Award for Best Female Rock Vocal Performance in 1984. I didn't know she won 4 consecutive, Andy.
Yes, very, very underrated at the time. For women weren't heard of a lot then. When they were, you assumed that
there was less of them to pick from, less supply, but she knocked it out of the ballpark 4 straight years, winning a Grammy. Now, a concert from this same tour was filmed for an HBO special and released later on VHS in 1985 with the title In Concert. So that ties in with this with this filming. Now, this album is 43 minutes and 2 seconds long. It's considered rock/hard rock, and recorded in France and California during the Get Nervous tour. So here's what they did. So Pat Benatar did not have a live album. They thought, let's get a live album out, and next album will be live. And what that meant to the production company was, you know what, we'll throw 8 songs on there from prior tours, and then throw 2 new singles on the back end, and release this 10-song album. And so that's exactly what they did. Here's a track listing. I'm sure you were in the tour at the concert there, Andy.
No.
This was back in 82. We would have been 12
years old. That was past my bedtime.
Yeah, past our bedtime. We weren't listening to Pat Benatar in concert, but she released, here's a track listing of the concert portion: Fire and Ice, Looking for a Stranger, I Want Out. Song 4 is We Live for Love. Song 5 is Hell is for Children. Then Hit Me With Your Best Shot, Promises in the Dark, and it wraps up with Heartbreaker. So those are the 8 songs. Then on the back end, brand new song, studio recording, Love is a Battlefield, the one that we said went huge, and then Lipstick Lies. Those 2 were both released as singles. Now, we typically get into, Andy, the personnel in the band. And most obviously it's Pat Benatar vocals, but for those who don't know, including me myself, Neil Giraldo was guitar, Charlie Giordano keyboards, Roger Capps on bass, and Myron Grombacher drums. Are any of those names familiar with you?
Well, the first one, the lead guitarist, the guitarist is also Mr. Pat Benatar.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes. So that's if you look at her Hall of Fame induction, that's who was up there with her. He's been there all along. He's kind of like Dave Stewart was in the Eurythmics. So Annie Lennox got all the attention because she was the lead one out in front.
Okay.
But Dave was like, and that take away from Pat Benatar, her husband Neil's kind of the brains behind it. A very talented man. He's of course been here with her the whole time. You look at a lot of her last few years, she's done a lot of acoustic stuff. And it's been the two of them on tour.
Now that's interesting. I didn't know that. I would say I'm a mid-level Pat Benatar fan. I like some of her common stuff. I don't own any of her albums. I don't own this live album, and I'm certainly not sure of who's all in the personnel. But you have a more extensive background than I do.
Yeah,
These other names ring a bell?
Just from being in her band and following it, I think a lot of us are familiar with "Hit Me With Your Best Shot." That song, I remember coming out in the mid '80s or early '80s. There, the Minnesota North Stars were popular here, so it was real popular to hear that song. And they showed highlights of hockey fights or violence in sports. That's kind of how that tied in together. Pat Benatar kind of, and you could probably help me on this one for dates a little bit. Her popularity was kind of between the two popularity runs of Heart. So she kind of filled in that gap when Heart was popular in the 70s.
Okay.
And then mid to late 80s, Pat Benatar kind of filled that void.
Bridged that gap
of women rockers, if you will. That's when the Runaways were popular with
Lita Ford,
Joan Jett, and Blondie coming out of that. Or Blondie also, I should say. Jefferson Starship with Grace Slick was real popular then at the time. Women in rock, they were in bands, but they weren't the band like Pat Benatar. That's how she got the 4 straight Grammys.
Wow.
Not taken away from other artists, but most of the other gals were in bands or the other person. A couple things about her one video there, Love's a Battlefield. That video kind of blew up and changed the way videos are made. If you're watching the video, how it's done, about daughter and her dad not getting along and going on. In the video, it was ranked number 30 on VH1 in their top 100 videos of the 80s.
Okay.
And the B-side to that came out was Hell's for Children was her B-side on that 45 when it came out.
Okay.
And here's where it was a little risque for the time.
Sure.
Nowadays, it's something you'd see on a commercial at noon, but I'm old, I said it. In the video, she plays what they call a taxi dancer.
Okay.
A taxi dancer is someone who's a paid partner to be your dance partner when you go to the clubs. You need someone to dance with. You go and you dance with your taxi partner, your taxi dancer.
Interesting.
There weren't ladies of the evening. It was just a pretty gal who danced with you that night.
So the older listeners of our show would know that in a heartbeat.
That term, yes.
I'm not familiar with that term at all. So
yep,
we're in the wrong generation. But taxi dancer.
Taxi dancer.
Okay.
And it shows how her leaving her mom and dad's house and her little brother up in the upstairs bedroom, sad the sister's leaving. And as she's got this job as a taxi dancer, she shows how the women should all be strong together and be a force, and they all leave the guy hanging. It's really incredible what they do in this 4-minute video. It's like you watched a 2-hour movie, which is kind of what they want videos to be then.
Condensed.
And she just kind of broke the mold and went from there with it, which was really, I thought, really cool video. It's one of those where you could watch the video and you're trying to watch it like as a TV show or a movie, and you forget there's a song in the background because you're concentrating on what's going on. It's one of those things, kind of a cool thing. Like you said, 4 straight Grammys for a rock female performer, which is just incredible. Her getting in the Rock Hall of Fame, in my opinion, is about 10 years too late. But we've had that discussion on other shows, and we'll probably do it again in a couple of years.
Yep.
Sure, we'll talk about it other times when it comes up. She was always, from what I recall, now I didn't do research on this. This is just going from pure memory. I never remember her being like associated with having an issue with that artist or being really good friends with this artist. She was always just kind of, it's Pat Benatar. She was kind of her own person, which I kind of liked in a way, as I got
also
more
not in the news. Not a big, yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't always, here's Pat Benatar and her friend, entertainer X, or whatever, or TMZ. She's feuded with this singer here.
Not a lot of TMZ stuff with
yeah. She just shut up and
everything, so.
Yeah, she just played rock and roll, and I would consider her rock at the time.
Yes.
That's what it was. She did some nice acoustic work later on. Beautiful voice. Her look really hasn't changed much over the years. Like Like some people, she got a little grayer, and that was about it. But I think from the time I remember her to the pictures I saw at the Hall of Fame, I think her weight's changed like 3 pounds. So she's just kind of been that same person all along. So many artists go through the part where they either lose a lot of weight, gain a lot of weight, cut their hair short, let it grow long, whatever. She's kept that. That's Pat Benatar, you
And
know.
Wilson.
Yeah, Ann Wilson's done it too. She's here I am. So yeah, but Pat's a great, great entertainer. Fun to listen to. Like I said, do I own any of her stuff? No. If I hear it on the radio, yeah, I'll turn it up. Or if I hear it's going to be a couple songs down, I'll tough it out and listen to what she's got on, what they got on for her. Very underrated because, like I said, when she was there in the 80s, now she's coming out. What year did this album come out? 82, 83 this came out?
This is 83.
83. That's when the hair bands were starting to take off. The hard rock was starting to take off.
Oh, yes.
So that's why she kind of did Love is a Battlefield. She did Hell's for Children. A couple years later, she kind of played with the titles to get attention. Had a song called Sex is a Weapon. Just a couple years later. So kept her name in there, but wasn't horrible things or terrible things or whatever. But kind of picked up the pace a little, released the rocker songs a little more. And then mid 80s, when all the hair bands said, hey, we're going to release our ballads this year. Whew, she got to release a few ballads, but still keep mainstream with everybody else.
Now, how do you like the album cover?
That was her, just basic.
I actually like it. That's such a statement because it's so simple, and sometimes those are the most effective album covers.
Yep. Unlike all the Phil Collins ones where we're always his face all the time on it. Phil Collins always has face on there. It's not her. It's not her in a seductive outfit. It's not the band and her. Benatar. That's who it was. Pat Benatar. That was the person. That was the band you saw. Boom. Live from Earth. That was the time too, and a lot of bands were doing live albums. Kiss kind of started with their live album. Everyone had to do a live album pretty soon now to keep up with the Joneses. It kind of replaced the greatest hits every now and then. Because greatest hits meant that, man, we're in a rut. We can't figure something out. Or we're at the end of our career.
Rejuvenate.
A live album just meant, hey, we're popular. People want to hear us live. When it's really kind of the same thing. You're just filling an obligation to the record company to get another album out. Let's make a live one.
So the HBO concert, the VHS.
Yep.
This is called Pat Benatar in Concert, released in 85. 15 songs on the VHS live in concert. The first 14 actual taken from the concert that she was doing, and then they added in the music video for Love is a Battlefield at the tail end of that. So anyone who has that VHS has this. Pat Benatar in Concert was where this the outgrowth of this album comes from, with both the live CD that you can listen to and now the live video feed as well. That kind of more of a companion piece to this album.
Yep. And the Love is a Battlefield, that's kind of my homework assignment for this week is to look that video up and watch it and just kind of see how videos were then. It kind of takes you back. A lot of videos were concert videos or the band playing in the studio or whatever. This was a true video telling a story, which was kind of cool.
Now, the VHS, I just noticed here, the VHS track listing was all recorded one night.
Yes.
In December 19th, 1982, in New Haven Veterans Memorial Coliseum in New Haven, Connecticut. So that is taken from that night. That's a live recording from that night. The live album was recorded. Those songs were taken from multiple venues,
right,
to make this live album.
Most live albums are from multiple sets, but the videotape will be one concert, maybe two.
As a Kiss fan, I thought Alive was just recorded one take on the show, ended when it was over, and when I found out later, it hurt me that they said no, that was from multiple.
Yeah, and how they added in
not even the same venue, perhaps.
They added in studio stuff and redid a few parts.
Added in more sound, some more crowd noise. Boy, it just deflated me when I heard that.
Yeah, it crushed me. But then again, the more I got into Kiss, that doesn't surprise me they did that either.
No, they were meddling around with that stuff all the way. So this is interesting because it's a it's a best of, almost a greatest hits done in live format with
Right.
2 studio recordings after it. And
But nowhere near the end of her career. It was just one of those in the middle. Let's throw out a live album because everybody else is. That's what we do.
now, how about Lipstick Lies? Was that any success there?
No, it's just another one to put on there. Again, a good song.
Just a
Don't get me
B
wrong.
side.
Yeah, just a filler song. Oh, we're gonna put a couple studio songs on here, so we have one to release for video or airplay to promote the album. Because you really don't want to release a live song as your new song off your live album because we've all heard it. Let's throw a studio track in there.
Now, Live from Earth peaked on the U.S. Billboard 200 at spot number 13. It peaked, but the U.S. rock albums peaked at number 1.
Yep.
So, like you say, with the crisscross going with hard rock, heavy metal, and everything that happening at the same time, and no heart, as you say, back during those years, this album peaked at number 1 on the U.S. rock albums, 13 on the Billboard 200, more commercial.
Yep, because that was kind of still the '80s was pretty much dead, but you had the disco era dying. Some of the Motown band, like the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson, that stuff.
You had Jackson, but Thriller came out around this time.
Right. So that sound, that genre, whatever. Hair bands were starting to take off. She was kind of in that middle and kind of, like you said, snuck up to number 1 now.
Now, 3 countries, this album reached top 10 status in Australia, Dutch, and German on the German album listing top 10 on all 3 of those top listings. So this internationally very popular as well. Anything else here, Andy, for Pat Benatar tonight?
Just, a lot of her videos in general, especially with Love of the Battlefield, watch those. That's kind of your homework assignment, if you will.
I'm gonna go back and watch that for sure to see what that was. And then of course, she had coming on the heels of that Hit Me With Your Best Shot, right, for the previous.
Yep. And it being Rock and Roll Hall of Fame week, there's one other note, more homework to find out. A lot of these award ceremonies, country music just said theirs the other night, you get these odd collaborations of people singing duets. A couple of people at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame did a duet. A couple of my favorite singers all time. I've mentioned the names on here, so I'm not making up a line. The song Jolene by Dolly Parton.
Oh, yes.
She did a duet.
Was it not good?
With Rob Halford from Judas Priest.
Oh, that's the song they did?
That's what they did.
I saw the photos.
Dolly in all leather with Rob Halford.
You can't unsee that.
Right. Cross that off the bucket list. Things to see. Now, Dolly Parton, and shame me for not writing this down. She is the only person in 4 different Hall of Fames. Country music, gospel, rock, and songwriters Hall of Fame.
I can't think of her name.
That's her. It's Dolly. Dolly. She's the only one of 4.
Okay.
Country, gospel, rock, and songwriters, all 4.
Oh, okay.
Not Elvis. Not anyone else. Not the Johnny Cash, who did some crossover stuff between country and gospel and rock. Dolly and Rob Halford from Judas Priest. All in leather, singing Jolene.
Now, we should at least mention the fact that Judas Priest is finally in. That was a topic.
But not in as they were in for their influence on the music industry, not as a performer.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yes. So they are in there. It's kind of like Shoeless Joe's shoes are in the Baseball Hall of Fame, but not Shoeless Joe.
Okay.
So they are in there. I think Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are in there for the same reason, for what they've done for the music industry, not for just being great performers. Yeah. Right. And Priest is in there, finally. Maybe Rob Halford can give him one of his cat sweaters to put in the Hall of Fame. That'd be kind of nice.
Yeah, he's a pretty good follow on Twitter.
Twitter and Instagram, he's a good follow. Here's Rob Halford with all his rings and metal stuff and kitty sweaters on, so it's kind of cool.
He's an odd cat, but a very funny individual.
Yep, and he's got a new book out. Rob Halford has a new book out, Biblical. Maybe I can get one from Santa for Christmas.
Hint, hint,
Yes. Maybe my favorite auntie might get me that for Christmas.
hint, hint.
So
Awesome. Well, we'll see what comes in the Christmas stocking there.
yeah, I'm just saying.
Well,
If someone's talking,
next week we start off with season 4. So look forward to seeing everyone then. This is the season finale for season 3 here at Sports and Songs Podcast. Have
any
a good one.
bands or any albums want to hear, mention them in the comments
Any
below.
kind of requests in the comment section, put in requests. Have a good one.
See ya.